but it's for fans with
Okay.
lowercase.
Okay.
That's what's up.
Um, the kids were your son went back to school.
Yeah, they went yesterday. So one went to sophomore high school, and the other one is in seventh grade. Oh my God, I'm so old.
So it's funny. I think we all got seventh grade. Seventh grade.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
seventh grade. Letitia has a seventh grade boy. Razul has a seventh grade, and then Letitia's other business partner, Sammy, has a seventh grade boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
We got these men together.
Yeah.
You know, doing
Yeah.
great things.
Yep.
All right. Hello, and welcome to Inspire Synergy. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz is a proud supporter of our podcast network, and we love him very much. Green Street Trust International is owned and operated by Renell Jump. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large and small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, a slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law tried to run you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and stabbed you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all over the state of Connecticut, and he will go to war with insurance companies to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. All you have to do is remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. They train boys and girls of all ages, of all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week at 6 a.m. If you want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains kids, boys and girls, from their sport of their choice, from the ground up, developing them to reach their full potential and become the best they can be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. He's got a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford. If you want to work with the best, go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. Then we also have Luther James Insurance, owned and operated by James Whitfield. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning, insurance policies, especially life insurance, and retirement planning. He helps first responders and police officers retain financial stability. He understands the stress of retirement. How much am I going to need? For how long? How many years? Because fear of the unknown is real. Go to his website, LutherJamesInsurance.com, and get your free quote. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments all across the country. His team, his squad, was undefeated this past season. They also go to college showcase camps across the country. And every one that they attended, a member of the Trench Mob was offered a scholarship. The Trench Mob podcast is every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. We had a banner episode last night. And to work with Julius, go to battleofthetrenches.com. He's in Decatur, Georgia, but he has a program for everyone, wherever you are in the country. And now for the men of the hour, from the House of changes. Razul, great to see you.
Always good to see you, Cully.
Ja, lovely to see you.
How you doing,
And
brother?
we have our very special guest, LaTonya King, owner of Hope Life Behavioral and Wellness LLC. How are you, LaTonya?
I'm doing well, and thank you for the welcome. I feel very welcomed.
Yes, you are very welcome. You are very welcome. Your job, what exactly is an APRN?
Okay. So that is just a generalized title where it stands for Advanced Practical Registered Nurse. So, but what I do and what my actual title is pretty long, but it's a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So it's a PMHNP-BC because I'm board certified.
Wow.
So I specialize in psychiatry across the lifespan. So I treat kids, adults, and elderly people for mental health. And I've been kind of doing that for almost 7 years.
So you can tell me if I'm crazy or not, probably in like 10 minutes, right?
Hmm? Maybe not 10 minutes, but a lot of it is instinctual.
Yes.
If something feels off.
Yeah. No, I got you.
But to diagnose, no, I need a little bit more time.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better. So you won't be able to get in my head so quickly.
No. And to further clarify the role, because I get this all the time, what's the difference between a nurse practitioner, a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and a psychiatrist? I get that all the time. I'm constantly confused to being a therapist. I'm always called a therapist, and we're not one and the same. And no shade to therapists. It's just that we just don't do the same thing. So,
it's different. Right?
You know, it's very different. So a therapist, obviously, they go through a different educational system. They're credentialed by a whole different board certification or whatever class that deals with them, but they don't prescribe medication. So the major psychiatric nurse practitioners nurse practitioners, we assess, diagnose, treat, and prescribe. The major difference between a psychiatrist and a psychiatric nurse practitioner is a psychiatrist is board certified by a medical board, and
Correct.
I'm board certified by a nursing board. So, and obviously the amount of years. So it takes about 12 to 14 years to be a psychiatrist, and it takes about 6 to 8 years to be a nurse practitioner, a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Right. So you put in a lot of time and effort for that title, and there's such a stigma in this country about mental health. What made you want to get involved and get into it?
There was several, I felt like this profession chose me instead of me choosing it. I think a big thing is cultural influence. I have a Caribbean background, Southern background, and growing up with those type of backgrounds and having two parents that clearly were diagnosed but not really diagnosed. I think that, and I'm sure we know many people in our family who they got something going on, but they're not right. But it wasn't very open. It was very taboo. It wasn't anything like the stigma, how you mentioned. My mother, I think she is technically my inspiration. And I think at the time I felt like she was the inspiration for all the wrong reasons. Meaning it affected our relationship. So I'm like, what's wrong with her? So it's almost like I got to go to school to figure out what's wrong with her. When actuality, my mom suffered from a lot of trauma. She was bipolar, and no one knew that she was until it was almost damn near too late when my mom passed away a year ago. So with all those, no, it's okay. But with all of those things, that really inspired me to going into mental health. I worked for DCF for about 12 years, so I saw it at the bud. And then I started working in the hospitals. And then when you work in the hospital, you get everything. You get all walks of life.
Right.
And then that really, really increased my hunger and my motivation to really get involved in mental health. But once I started dealing and seeing more of it, I think what really made me open up my own practice and influence what I'm doing now is how a lot of disparaged people of different cultural backgrounds, lower social economic status, how they're disparaged when it comes to access of care and mental health.
They don't get the
And
treatment.
I realized that there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me in this profession, and I think that really got my goal about let me do this. So that's my story.
Yeah. And, you mentioned your mother being bipolar. And often with that, does that come with bouts of depression and then they're manic afterward? So that can be challenging to diagnose, correct?
Yes, because about over almost close to 80% of patients who experience their first bipolar episode, believe it or not, everyone, because mania is so sensationalized, right? You think of Kanye West, you think of so many different people, but believe it or not, the depressive part is actually more common than anything. And usually because depression and bipolar depression, they look almost very much the same. It's underdiagnosed. So they're getting diagnosed and treated for depression, and you see that more often when actuality it's not that, and they're not doing well on the medications or whatever treatment modality that's there because it's not the same. My mom's situation was different though. My mom's situation is she became bipolar after prolonged periods of.
Doesn't it come in early adulthood?
For men, it's earlier in men. You start to see it in men when they're like 18-ish. Women, you can see it a little bit later. But as I was saying with my mom, that's another form that people don't see. She got it from postpartum depression. So when you have postpartum depression that's not treated for a long, long time, it can actually increase your risk to develop bipolar disorder. And that's what happened with my mom. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I knew that. I used to watch Homeland. So Carrie on Homeland was bipolar. And my friend, who's a therapist, said that she played the role so well that it's kind of the best display of bipolar on television. It's always done wrong. I think she's got a call right now that came in. But that's very, very interesting. And Razul and Ja, I mean, you guys see it at House of Changes, the men there especially, how important mental health treatment is for them.
Yeah.
And what is the protocol for them getting it?
So as of right now, we're looking to expand services. That's why we brought in LaTonya and another mental health professional, because we started off with the housing, and then the goal is to build out the other support services.
Well, the other programs, right?
But not being a mental health professional myself, I don't really know how to read signs or what things indicate. And Marcus, he has a lot of experience and certifications in peer recovery specializations, but peer recovery. I forget the proper title.
You said it right. It's peer recovery.
Yeah. So, but as far as like mental health, being able to like say, well, this dude is acting like this because of X, Y, and Z. We don't really.
You don't know, right?
Or we can't do it. So, we got some brilliant professionals to come in and help us to support them as much as possible.
LaTonya, for the process of someone to see you for mental health, is it usually a referral from their primary care, or do people come directly to you and Hope Life?
There's multiple ways to request an appointment with me or anyone on my team. I think that's one of the things that I wanted to do is make the access a lot easier. So I don't need a referral. I don't require a referral from a doctor or a therapist. A patient can refer themselves. So
Or you prior
a potential
authorization,
patient.
something like that.
No. All they need to do is look me up on my website. There's a contact us. They just upload a picture of their license and insurance if they're comfortable with that. And then my secretary usually gets, or receptionist usually get to them within 48 hours with a potential appointment.
Wow.
And not saying you're going to be seen in 48 hours, but I'm
No,
just saying,
no,
like,
but you'll get scheduled. You get scheduled.
someone will contact you and let you know. Obviously, if you're doing it on a Friday, we're not going to talk to you until Monday. But usually, for the most part, we're pretty quick about being responsive and letting you know. Also, just Psychology Today, Zip.
Yep.
I think I'm on ZocDoc, like places like that. People can find me. I'm not hard to find.
Yeah. No, I mean, Psychology Today is such a useful tool. And I mean, you can see the volume of people who are actually just booked up and not taking new patients. So it's amazing that you're able to do that. And there is a tremendous need for it. And is it common to be able to go directly to someone like you without seeing your primary care or another physician to get a referral?
It's actually the opposite. Most people get referred because remember, I one of the things that I was on some podcast and I think I said something where I said mental health used to be treated in the dark, like in the basement, like it's like
Oh, dude, yeah,
like the stepsister, like we know you need it, but we're not gonna talk about it. So usually a lot of patients, if they're referred, it's usually sometimes by their PCP, like because they entered a PHQ-9 or a MADRS, and they're saying that they're feeling a little bit more depressed. So, their PCP might start them on something or give them a referral to a place. But these days, you don't need that. You don't need a referral from a PCP. You can just, like, for example, Wheeler, CHR, I forgot another one. A lot of them have intake days, meaning you can just come in and just already get set up to start services, because the goal is to get people connected.
Right. And that's huge because, like you said, there's so many people that don't have access to that. And the people that are out there who are struggling, who aren't being seen, what message would you tell them?
I would tell them that don't give up. We are out there. I think the problem is, where do you access? Connecticut, believe it or not, and of course maybe I'm biased because I'm a provider that is based in Connecticut, but Connecticut actually has a lot of services for mental health. I am a NAMI board member chapter, and that's the National Association for Mental Alliance, and I know with them, they have chapters all over the United States, and you can go to their website. They can direct you to a provider that accepts your insurance, even providers that don't take, meaning you're just taking like pro bono or maybe a sliding scale or fee for service, because some people can't even get on Medicaid, which sounds crazy, but it's true. But they still have mental health needs. So they give you providers that do those type of services as well. As I mentioned, Psychology Today, ZocDoc, just typing in mental health services in Connecticut. You can always utilize your 211. 211, calling 211 can also access to give you connected to someone. And like I said, it also depends on your insurance and like where you're at, because that will determine, who can see you. So, but I just don't want people to feel like there's no one out there and that they're alone and they have to navigate this alone, because you don't. We're here. We're here.
Right. So like with Razul and Ja, who are running the House of Changes, and they're dealing with, addicts and people with mental health disorders. Have you treated a lot of people with addiction? I'm a recovering addict myself. And when I was in treatment, my clinician was doing their PhD, and they were doing a study trying to connect basically whatever your drug of choice was, there was a specific mental health disorder associated with that. But mental health was such a big part of your recovery process. How much do you do with that? And is that something especially that would be useful for the House of Changes?
Great question. I'm very comfortable treating addictions. I actually used to be a director of behavior health in Springfield, Mass, and I used to be the supervisor over the MET program that they had there. So I did that for about 3.5 years. Yep. So from Sublocade, Suboxone, Vivitrol, now Naltrexone, Valstorm. There's one with a B. I can't remember it, so I don't want to embarrass myself. But there's all those options. I'm very aware and have a lot of experience with. And in my private practice, I also treat addictions as well. I treat obviously alcohol use disorders. I treat opiate use disorder. Very well versed in Suboxone or Subutex. Because you kind of have to be. Mental health is very much comorbid with the addiction. And I tell a lot of my patients all the time, you're not going to be able to deal with the underlying root because the addiction is driving it. You have to deal with the addiction first, get that under control, and then we can start diving into why you're an addict or why you're doing what you're doing. And once they're at that place where they're willing to dive into those, I notice that their recovery is a lot stronger, as they're just not focusing on the addiction piece, but also roping in the mental health part. So, that's something I'm very passionate about. It's not for everybody. I get that. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, that's something that I do treat and can bring to the House of Changes.
That's huge because I know therapists that don't want to take on addicts. A friend of mine who's a therapist won't take addicts, and it's just because she couldn't handle the failure rate. She would get so upset because of relapses, and they would always go back, and it was very, very difficult for her to see it. How do you handle it? Do you prefer, like, if for an opioid addict, methadone or Suboxone?
So those are two separate questions. So the first part is, how do I handle it?
Because you said there's just a high failure rate.
There is, but I don't look at it as a failure though. So I don't, and maybe this is where my philosophy might differ with other people. You got to understand the psychopathy of addiction. It's lifelong. It's a disease.
It's a journey.
It's like me getting mad at someone who diabetes was controlled, and the next thing you know, their A1C spikes. Am I going to be like, I can't treat you for your diabetes because you were under control, and the next thing you know, now we're back at square one? It's a disease. So I understand that it's going to ebb and flow. I've had patients who's been in recovery for 20 years and had a minor relapse, but they thought their life was over. And then I've had patients who are constantly on the wagon, off the wagon, on the wagon. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That shit it's frustrating. But at the end of the day, you got to understand it comes along with the disease. So that's why I said earlier, it's not for everybody. It isn't. Yeah. The second thing is, I don't personalize their relapses. I don't personalize it. So if they fall or if they relapse, I can only imagine what they're feeling like. So it's not going to it behooves me to make you feel even worse because you're not doing well. So I think the best thing for me to do in that situation is to model consistency and support, but still carry boundaries. Like, I'm not like, okay, this is your 5th relapse in 3 weeks. Yeah, we got to try something else. It's not going to work. So that's fine. And the other part you asked, what am I more comfortable with, methadone or Suboxone? So methadone is federally regulated. So I can never do methadone in my private practice. You have to go to a clinic
To the clinic, right?
to get that done. Right. So my experience with methadone is only inpatient only. I've never done methadone on a private practice outpatient level. Suboxone, I'm comfortable with it. I don't have an issue with it. I think when a person is motivated, dedicated, and uses it appropriately, they're fine. I think those who have this mentality that you're just replacing a drug for a drug, I find it harder to treat those clients. So it goes. I don't know. I think it ebb and flows. It ebb and flows. But I don't really have like a preference. Like I don't. I just feel like whatever gets them sober, then that's what we're using. That's what we're doing. So
That's a lot of people say.
Want to add to what LaTonya was talking about. When I first met LaTonya, she was a keynote speaker for an event that we attended together.
She did better than me.
She knocked it out the park. She's a beast. And
thank you.
Know, the main thing that really stood out was her commitment, dedication, passion, energy to every single one of her clients. Like the stories she was sharing about.
You can see that for sure.
When I say dedication, on the clock dedication, like she'll get a phone call at night and like all in, because she's really focused on their recovery plan and she's all in that dedication. Because what we talk about all the time in House of Change is you got to meet them where they're at. And she's very realistic about that. And she goes in with building a relationship first to really identify.
You got to get that trust. Absolutely.
And identify, like, one thing I noticed growing up in New York, that some people be diagnosed for like bipolar or any other type of mental illness. And some of it is just their personality and it's not an accurate diagnosis. I don't see that with LaTonya at all. So really
I appreciate that.
Impressed me, and that makes a difference in how she treats her clients, her patients. And the other thing that stood out, she's not in a silo by herself. She has a well-established, built-up team in a very affluent area. So I do want to give her flowers and her success, because she won't point that out to the audience, because she's very humble.
No, I mean, she worked the inpatient clinic. She's been in hospitals. She's seen it all. And then she started a private practice. That's very, very impressive. And that's not easy to do.
You.
How long has Hope Life been open? No.
So funny. I started Hope Life on my birthday, September 17th, 2019. So that's how long Hope Life has been up and running.
Good for you. I mean, you've gotten it rolling and you're treating so many different problems. What would you say right now is the biggest mental health disorder that people struggle with that they aren't getting help with?
Oh, man. Or
that you see the most?
I think I'm seeing a lot of more neurodivergency and autism. That's coming up a lot more. I think also because of the digital world and AI, a lot of patients are diagnosing themselves or feeling like they align themselves to a disorder, and they're kind of coming in and kind of like, hey, I resonate with autism, and I'm like, okay, but you're 46. I don't know what you want me, like there's no pill for autism. Like, there's no, and I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. I'm saying it more of the fact of like, I think people are recognizing whatever it's the climate or just working or whatever, just being productive, like they're noticing a lot of neurodivergent issues with productivity and keeping up and attention and focus. And I'm getting a lot of clients coming in asking to be treated for ADHD or autism. So that has been a shift, I would say, in the past maybe 3 years. But depression is still number one. Anxiety is probably number 2, and sleep is almost creeping up to almost being number 1. Like, no one can sleep. I can't get anyone to sleep. No one can sleep. So,
What would
like
you say are the
I'm on
biggest
here now.
issues?
Huh?
What
I'm
would you
sorry?
say are the biggest issues with sleep disorders?
I think the biggest issue with sleep disorder is that there's two major issues, and from my perspective, with sleep disorders. The things that help you to get to sleep are addicting. So the things that, I tell patients all the time, I can knock you out. I can absolutely knock you out. I can make you go
Right.
to sleep. But it's one of those type of things where it's like, if I give you this, you're gonna either be A, super groggy in the morning, or B, I give you this and I can only keep you on this for only a couple months because it can develop dependency. So
Absolutely.
the medication options for clients who really struggle with sleep is it's not great. It sucks. I will be the first to tell you. It's not good at all. The other part also too is implementing a really good sleep hygiene. You know, it doesn't matter how many times I could tell a patient how to do a healthy sleep hygiene. It's putting it into practice and creating it and making it become a habit. And I think just developing that level of commitment, especially when if you got a lot of stuff going on, it's just it fails. They don't do it. It fails. And then, like I said, and then I say a third thing is the side effects to some of the medications that do help you to sleep. Like, it'll help you to sleep, but then you also feel, like I said, either groggy during the day,
Yeah.
or it helps you to sleep, but then you feel foggy, the head fog. So
Yes.
you slept amazing, but then you feel like you're, like, I don't know, dissociating throughout the day because it's like you're there, but you're just like autopiloting because you're so foggy during the day. So it's like those are some of the things that makes treating sleep very hard. I say one last thing about sleep that I've kind of been getting more into is the fact that I'm my biggest thing that I talk to my patients, because they always get on me about how I preach on them, but I don't care. That's my style. I tell them all the time you can't separate the mind from the body. So a lot of times when I have a lot of patients who have all these sleep issues, or maybe their sleep issues have been chronic, meaning lasting past 3 months, I send them for sleep studies. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
about to play around with
Yeah.
your brain and do all that other stuff. Like, that's make sure we outrule OSA, make sure there's no any brain structure stuff going on. I've
Sleep
had a lot of
apnea.
athletes, they get head concussions, stuff like that. Like, hey, now your sleep is off. Do you have a TBI? Like, what's going on? So things like that doesn't always come to the forefront, but as providers, we need to be mindful in treating.
Absolutely.
Can you expand a little bit more on like sleep hygiene and what that is for the audience?
It's absolutely a
Yeah.
routine. You got to get off your phone. You got to have a dark place. You go to bed
Yep.
every night at the same time, because I've had that issue. That's the biggest thing. And you have racing thoughts in your head. So many people
Mhm.
go to bed and they'll either get on their phone and they can't put it down, or they're watching TV. You can't do that. You can't have any distractions when you go to sleep. You have to have a set routine, a set time. Close all your electronic devices, throw them out the window. Go ahead.
It's not even necessarily throwing it out the window. It's just setting time for it. And then when it's time, like, think about it. Like, you've seen those studies. It'll be like couples who don't have a TV in their room, their marriage is better, or something like 80% better. Like, I don't think people realize that we need our sympathetic system constantly keeping us alive and working all day long. But the parasympathetic is very important too, because you need your body to rest and reset. And if you're not able to do that, then that's why a lot of people have a lot of issues, because it's like your brain is on all day long. So it's not the fact that you can't scroll on TikTok, but you probably shouldn't be scrolling on TikTok till 2:00 in the morning. So
Exactly.
it's like setting the time. So if like, I'm a late bird, I get up early, but I go to bed late. So midnight is usually when I crash, right? I'm maybe on my phone because I can't catch up with everything that's going on because I'm constantly in with clients. So I try to catch up like late at night. So, but I know like probably after 10 I need to put my phone down. So I'll put my phone down because I'm still answering emails. Patients are like, why are you emailing me at 1 o'clock in the morning? Like, I have to turn it off. So the other part also too is, no exercising after maybe 6 or 7 p.m. because you're releasing dopamine stores, you're opening everything up. Now you're giving yourself revved up. No spicy foods, salty foods, sweets late at night because those things metabolize in the body and it keeps your brain up. Like, these are all like simple things that people don't realize are important, but can help you to have better sleep.
Right, exactly. The other thing you talked about was postpartum depression, and I know so many people that have struggled with that. When does that usually take place for women? When does it usually hit, and when do you usually see them and get involved? By the time they get to you?
So postpartum depression, it doesn't necessarily first start off as postpartum. I don't know if you ever heard of baby blues. So baby blues is like after you just have the baby, antepartum, you can, postpartum, you kind of have a little sense of sadness, but you're not, you're able to kind of, because you got to think about it. Not only, our whole bodies is sacrifice to create this life and to not only create the life but to give birth to it. So Your hormone levels drop, everything is off, so it's you don't really feel good. But then on top of that, you have to take care of baby, you have to be up, you have to do this, you have to do that. So you might sometimes get that sadness that lasts for maybe 3 to 4 weeks after giving birth, but then if not getting better, it can start to exacerbate or to show signs of depression that is caused from having the baby. And what you'll see, it looks a lot different than regular depression because a lot of it is really based off of just how you feel and also interacting with your baby. So, like, for example, like, you don't really feel like you love your child, or not the fact that you're abusing or whatever, but there's no connection. You feel very disconnected. You're crying all the time. One of the things that I've noticed, and I'm doing a lot better about it, is I've noticed in some of my postpartum patients, like, their anxiety is extremely high, and they start to get very paranoid. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't drive to go get formula from Walmart? Yes, you can. No, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I can only go at 3 o'clock in the morning when everyone's in, and then the baby, like, what? Like, you'll notice, like, their brain is overworking, and they're not able to kind of, like, rationalize this well. So you can have postpartum depression, and that can actually last up to 2 years after the baby is born. And then, in rare cases, you can have postpartum psychosis. And those are the one where you see, I think her name is Andrea Yates. That's the woman who drowned her babies, killed all her babies after, because she's had postpartum that was never treated. She never had postpartum depression that was treated. And then it went into psychosis. So that is something that is very seen. And I've treated that in my career. I have treated postpartum psychosis one time. And it's the most scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's like they're so not in touch with reality. It's like it's crazy.
They lost touch.
That part can be very scary. Yeah, they're very lost touch. And it's sad because it's not like this is what, like they did any substances. They didn't know. It's just depression got the worst of them, and they just they're not able to, so.
Do you also refer people, or are there instances you will want them to go to inpatient treatment for mental health? Because one of the issues that I always hear about is suicide and suicidal ideation. Do you see that a lot?
I do, unfortunately. I see it a lot. One of the things that I want to clarify is that there's one thing to have suicidal ideation, and then there's one thing to have an attempt, right? So suicidal ideation is extremely common. And what suicidal ideations are thoughts of not wanting to be here. In psychiatry, we separate it from active and passive. So passive is usually, I just wish I could wake up and not be here anymore. Or it could just be like, what's the purpose of even living? I don't know why I'm here. But it's not definitive, right? It's just more of just questioning your purpose. How do I go? Active is it's intrusive. It's uncomfortable. It is you're literally thinking of plans. You're thinking of like, how do you say goodbye? How do you work it out? Even though maybe you didn't formulate a plan yet, but those thoughts are just consistently, intrusively interrupting your thought feed. I treat that every day. I hate to say it, but there's not one day that I have not worked where I have not talked to someone who has felt suicidal. So it's extremely common. Having suicidal thoughts does not warrant going to the hospital, because people can have thoughts, but they can contract, or they can provide a sense of like, I can be safe. I'm just letting you know that I'm struggling with these thoughts. And I think as a provider, it's very important to listen to that, because it's very hard to even admit that you're even having those thoughts, and immediately they think you're locking them up because they're having these thoughts. And I think the most important thing is normalizing these conversations of like, okay, let's talk about this. Like, how long have you been having these thoughts? Like, is there anything that's triggering it? Maybe we could tweak your medications here. How about we come up with a safety plan? Who can we talk to when you're feeling like this? It kind of gives them a sense of like, okay, there's so many steps that we can get before we even put that as a plate on the table. It should never be a plate on the table. And it's a lot of work. I'm not going to hold you. It's a lot of work. There have been times where I've absolutely voluntarily can get a patient to agree to go. And there are times where patients are suicidal, have a plan, and they're like, I'm not going to the hospital. And due to my licensure and what I can do, it's called a PEC, so it's a physician emergency certificate, and I have papered them to go to the hospital for further evaluation. That PEC only gets you to the hospital. It does not keep you there. But at least I'm doing my due diligence. I see that this person is at risk. They're not able to contract for safety. They're not really logical. I don't trust the fact that they can be safe, and because of that, I do have the power by the state of Connecticut to be like, you gotta go.
And is it 36 hours they'll hold them for?
You can be held up to 72 hours.
72. Okay. Razul, at the house, have you guys dealt with that at all? With suicidal ideations where you have had to get the men in the house treatment or have them seen? Or have Marcus had any concerns about that?
Nothing that's been communicated yet. I can't say for sure that no one's thought it, but nothing has been communicated to myself or Marcus. So
that's a good thing. Okay.
Yeah, no.
What would you say is the biggest thing that has been communicated as far as mental health, where you will take steps to get the men seen?
Honestly, at this point, Marcus is really the biggest indicator, because the guys themselves, they don't really,
Yeah, they're not gonna. Yeah, your management. They're not gonna talk to you.
Right. So he really communicates. This person seems to be like, displaying this type of behavior, or they've not followed the rules this many times, and he'll just say they're concerned, and then we'll just like kind of, in those cases, we kind of talk to guys. In some cases, we put them on probation with the understanding that, this could be more than, they could be, I don't know, manic or just outside of themselves. But I don't know if it's a good way to put it, but that I feel like that just the accountability makes them like, feel like they have to, because then they might, be without a roof. But again, that's why we have people like, LaTonya and our other partner Tanisha now, because when an instance like that comes up, now we have someone to.
Now you have someone to go to.
Yeah.
Right. LaTonya, we had a question that came in. How often would you say you see borderline personality disorder, and how is it treated? How is it handled?
Oh, the good old BPD.
I'm sorry.
I think
you got a lot of viewers right now.
No, it's fine. I love it. I see it all the time. All the time. It's a lot more common than often. I treat it. That's actually one of my specialties, believe it or not. And the reason why I say it's one of my specialties because I think it's my success rate. I say specialty because I judge it on my success rate with patients with BPD. And when I say success rate, because a lot of times people with BPD, because they have that, sometimes people would, not sometimes, a lot of times they have that all or nothing mentality. Like, I could say everything that aligns with them, and then maybe one session I say something they don't like it, and they're gone. I don't see them again, right? So I have many patients with BPD that have been with me for years. They stuck it out with me. You know, they understand my style because, you know, I tell people all the time, I am not for everybody, but I think what makes them feel secure is that I model a sense of consistency for them. You know, because a lot of people with BPD, they have abandonment issues, rejection issues, a history of trauma, and they are quite misunderstood. They're judged mainly on how they react as opposed to how they emotionally communicate their feelings. And, you know, they kind of get a bad rap. They're stigmatized a lot. A lot of therapists do not want to work with people with BPD. And I think with that being said, you know, a lot of times it's almost like saying like they can't be rehabilitated, or they're not in a position because it's a personality disorder. You cannot change personality. There's no pill for personality disorder. You can give, you know, there can be some aspects of depression and anxiety, you know, but their mood shifts very rapidly. So when your mood is shifting very rapidly, and I'm not talking about bipolar. Bipolar is episodic. A lot of patients are misdiagnosed who have BPD for bipolar disorder because they have a raging fit because their man ignored them for 3 hours on the phone, so they tore the house up. Like, no, that's not a manic episode. Even if they blacked out, they're very well aware of what triggered them. You don't necessarily need a trigger to have a manic episode, correct? So, but as far as like with BPD, the vacillation of emotion, that's the part that can be very distressful, and usually therapeutic modules like DBT, mindfulness, and as far as like a combination of medications, usually I tend to use mood stabilizers. I feel like they're a lot more effective than antidepressants or SNRIs or SSRIs. I tend to see a little bit more stability, but a lot of it is the therapeutic point, like partnering with a good therapist, a good provider that sees you, understands you, but holds you accountable. I've noticed that they have better success rate in being able to emotionally regulate themselves, as opposed to, you know, turning to other things to emotionally to regulate themselves. So, but I see it very, very common. It's very often, a lot.
Can you talk about DPT? I'm not familiar with that at all.
Borderline personality disorder?
Oh, okay. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's what she just.
So we just use the acronym in psychiatry as BPD. So yeah, that's what it is.
I'm sorry.
I thought you said
no, it's fine.
Is there a treatment? No.
There's no pill for it, but she said mood stabilizers can help.
Yeah, mood stabilizers can help regulate. But usually it's usually dialectical behavior therapy. That therapy was actually created to help people with BPD, right? Because that whole, like, you know, it's a lot of interpersonal, emotional communication, dysregulation. There's a lot there that makes it very. I'm sorry.
There's so many aspects, like you're saying.
Yeah, there's so many aspects of it. It's not just like focusing on the liability. It's a lot of chronic emptiness, like impulsivity, like, you know, very I call it egregious consequencing behaviors, like, you know, you're spending a lot, or you've had sex with like 5 people in 1 week. Like, and it's not even because you really like sex, but a lot of times it's just to fill a void. Like, these are all things that happen. And a lot of people feel very shamed to talk about this. So they kind of either stay in the dark or they end up in the hospital all the time. They're hospitalized all the time, which doesn't help them either. It doesn't.
Right.
It helps maybe stabilize in a moment, but after a while, it's hard for them to move past that even as well.
Another person asked about narcissistic personality. Do you see that often?
I see more traits than a disorder because 9 times out of 10, someone who's narcissistic doesn't think they need therapy. I'm telling you, they're not coming.
Right.
They're perfect.
Yes,
they're not coming to therapy. They're not coming to therapy. They're not coming there. But I would say in my career, I probably diagnosed, like legit diagnosed DSM-5. Like, oh my God, yes, you are. I say twice. And the one that I diagnosed as narcissistic personality disorder, but I diagnosed him also as a sociopath. He actually ended up hurting someone really, really bad. And I did all my warnings. I did everything. I was like, yeah, this is a person who's a sociopath and been a sociopath for a very long time because he's had narcissistic personality disorder that has not been really diagnosed, and this is what's going on. But it's not as common because, you hear people like, you're a narcissist. Like, you hear that all the time. And, one of the things to put out there is that you can have traits of narcissism, but not necessarily the disorder. The disorder is heavy duty stuff. This has been rooted in budding since childhood. This is not something where, your man keeps cheating on you and he gaslights you that he's not cheating. Like, that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about really insensitive traits that persist and can happen, and and honestly, the two that was with me, they didn't stay long because I think what ends up happening is they challenge the provider a lot in session. Right. And I'm not going to sit here and be vulgar, but like your balls is not bigger than mine, so it's not going to happen. Exactly. So it doesn't last long.
Exactly. So, Hope Life.
How much?
Where exactly are you located,
Cully?
I'm located in Avon, Connecticut.
Okay, go ahead, Razul.
With the how much of that is genetic and how much is it environmental?
A lot of it is genetic. But I would say it's hard. A lot of. Are you talking about narcissism?
I'd say, with I guess it can vary depending on what specifically you're talking about, huh?
So yes, it can vary because not one case is the same. So some of it is, a lot of it is environmental, like how they brought up, like their parents' parenting style, like the parenting style of the two. One I officially diagnosed. Well, no, I diagnosed both of them. But the two of them have very similar backgrounds. A very authoritative father that was very strict with very high expectations. A mom that was absentee, so they had a lot of anger towards women. And I'm talking specifically the two men. I'm not saying this is a classic profile of what it looks like, but in that situation, a lot of their symptoms for me, where it was easier for me to diagnose, they had a lot of biological, a lot of environmental things that influenced their personality, as opposed to a parent was also narcissistic as well. So a lot of times I say it's 50-50, but sometimes you might have a lot more environmental things that are more prominent as opposed to environmental.
We had another question about ADHD.
Yes.
People wanted to know, they think that sometimes people diagnose it too soon, put them on medication too soon. What is your experience with ADHD, And have you seen cases or instances where children are just put on medication right away and diagnosed with it, maybe misdiagnosed or improperly diagnosed?
That's a great question. So I've seen it, believe it or not, I've seen it mixed. I've seen kids be underdiagnosed, meaning like you're like, oh my God, this kid is really struggling. This kid is really, 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 really struggling, but the parents are not necessarily, my stance on that is, when you're treating the child, you're actually treating the parent. I have to respect the parent's standpoint and their views because it's their child. Like I can't just do what I want with their child, right? Yeah. But I spend a lot of time educating. Psychoeducation is important with parents because they have to feel comfortable and feel safe with you. I'm treating your child. So when you're dealing with a child who is maybe exhibiting symptoms of ADHD, usually the first line is not medication, is behavior modification. So I encourage parents to like ask for an IEP, where you can request from the school, because think about it, what they sometimes presents at home, it may be very different how they present at school, right? So we want to make sure that we catch all of that. So you might need some metrics, you might need a Vanderbilt, you might need a Connor, you might need those things to kind of see what's going on. I strongly encourage parents, I don't know who's out there who's listening, if you suspect something or if maybe a teacher said something or whatever, don't go the medication route right away. Make sure metrics are in place to see what is truly going on with your child. It might be anxiety. A lot of times anxiety and ADHD symptoms, they overlap and they look the same. So you don't want to put a child on a stimulant and they're very anxious. Now they're like jumping out of their pants. They don't know what to do with themselves, So I do agree sometimes we jump to medications very quick because we don't want medications to be an easy fix. Because medications does not cure ADHD. It just helps to stabilize. So we need to be mindful of that. The other part is I've seen kids come in with me and they're underdiagnosed because they're very studious. Their grades are amazing. They're doing awesome. But then when I don't talk with them, with their parents there, the kids are like, it takes, like I think this is when I got, I don't want to say good, when I started to really understand ADHD, I would ask a kid and I'll be like, hey, what does this sound like in your head? And they'll be like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I know your grades are good. You're not getting in trouble, but, it looks inconsistent. Like maybe your grades are amazing, but then, 2 weeks you bottomed out and you failed everything. And everyone's like, what is going on with you? Are you depressed? I said, how about we talk about what's going on in your head? And a lot of times, many kids will be like, Tanya, it sounds like a lawnmower, the TV, the blender, a car revving, and all in my head, and I have to think through all of that. So we have to think about this. It's not always present in behavior, like actual physical activity, like the kid that's bouncing like Tigger all over the place. Sometimes it's what's going on in here. They're not able to necessarily regulate, right? So that's why it's important to get the metrics in place, to ask those screeners, those questions before we start talking about, hey, are we at the point where we need to medicate? And there's I think parents also need to know if they don't feel comfortable with stimulants, there's also non-stimulants, medications that are not controlled substances that can help kids to kind of bring things down for them to where they feel like they are in control of themselves, right? So, it's just really about asking the right questions and kind of doing some education on your own. I say y'all guys are your biggest advocates for your kids. As long as you come in with an open mind, I'll work with you. I'll meet you where you're at, but I won't leave you there. So that was a great question.
LaTonya, plays in the head, or could it be like emotional? Because, as children, their hormones change and stuff. Could it be emotional for that too, or just mainly in their mind?
When I say in their head, I mainly was talking more about like the thought process, like for people who they're not hyperactive, right? But their grades are good, but a lot of times they get missed throughout the cracks because they're like, well, I don't have to tell them, yeah, maybe I told them 40 times to do a task, but my kid's good, well behaved, they're fine. But then what happens is they get older, and even though maybe, because that's the thing with ADHD, you start to develop these compensatory mechanisms to survive, right? So I do things a certain type of way. I can't color inside the lines, but I can still get the box colored. But the older you get, sometimes it doesn't stay forever. So as far as like hormones look a little bit different. Hormones look a little bit different as far as like ADHD, because you'll see a lot of impulsivity. Sometimes you'll see a lot of irritability. And again, yes, those symptoms can overlap with ADHD, but you'll notice that it's not turning off. Like it's remember, as your kid gets older, you start noticing that levels out, right? With ADHD, it doesn't level out. It's not leveling out. It's not. It's something that needs to be corrected. So that's one of the ways that you can kind of tease out, is this just like you're going through a phase, as opposed to, oh my God, there might be something there. Hence why I encourage metrics and doing a lot of, screenings and things like that, because, you shouldn't just be like, okay, well, they're bouncing off the wall, let's give them a med. Like, that's not really appropriate.
Right. So Hope Life, how many people do you have in your practice? And and you said you're busy nonstop. You'll see anyone, and people can get scheduled within 48 hours, correct? And you're located in Avon. And do you do virtual appointments? Someone asked.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so much for educating us and answering some questions. I'll give you one last question. I didn't ask earlier. If someone who is on Suboxone, is it something that you will keep them on long term, or do you taper them off at a certain point?
I mentioned earlier where I said I meet the client where they at, but I won't leave them there. I really think it's individually based. Some patients are very anxious and don't trust themselves to come off. It's not something that you per se have to stay on for the rest of your life. I've had some patients stay on because it holds them accountable. And they're like, listen, if it ain't broke, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not going to taper you off. The only way that I'll taper you off is if we realize, like, because this happens. Sometimes your body doesn't require as much. So we might need to come down a bit on the dose, right? Yeah. So that's fine. Some people are like, listen, I don't like the taste. What can I do? Is there anything else I could do? Those clients might be more appropriate for injectables. So I'll encourage them to do injectables as opposed to being on like the Sublocade or Vivitrol. I'll encourage them to do that. I think the most important thing is to kind of take out the stigmatization is that you're only being sober because of the drug. I don't like that. You're not just being sober because of the drug. We all know with addiction, you need a multimodality treatment to be successful. You can't just do it by just therapy. You can't just do it by going to AA. You can't just do it by taking a pill. You can't just do it by taking a shot. You have to work lifelong hard and have multiple things in place to be successful. So if a patient tells me, hey, I think I'm ready to come off, I'm not going to discourage them. The only way I will discourage them if they've had too many relapses. I'll be like, you've had like 3 relapses in the past 6 months. I don't know if that's wise, but ultimately it's always the patient's decision. Like, I'm never going to do push anything. Them. Yeah, I won't push them. I'm a very vocal provider. Like, sometimes I won't say anything. Is the Virgo in me? Sometimes it's just my facial expressions, and patients will be like, "Damn, like you don't like." I'm like, "Yeah, like what we doing? Like, I'm not like, what do you think we're doing? Like, we're not doing that." And believe it or not, because they respect me, and I don't know why, they just like feel like I'm gonna beat them or something. They'll be like, they'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't do that. I look like he's gonna get mad." Like, no, I'm not dropping you because you don't want to be on Suboxone. Like, what are we doing? Like, I'm not doing that. I think I'm really big about partnering with my patients. Like, this is you. I may be, I might got the license to drive the boat, but you telling me where we going? Like, this is what we're doing. So, at the end of the day, those type of partnerships also help to stay in sobriety, even and without the presence of medication. So it really is individually based. Yeah. Whatever they want to do, And obviously, I tell them pros, cons. You know, I always do LaTonya's good, the bad, and the ugly, and I tell them what it is, and I make them help them to make that decision, and we go from there.
And how big is your practice? How many providers do you have at Hope Life?
I have 2. I just hired another APRN. I'm in the process of expanding because, believe it or not, as much as I love what I do, I don't know. I just feel like God is calling me to do more, and I think I need to. And trust me, I do a lot. But I feel like I need to transition into something else. So eventually, I'm gonna even give up my caseload. But right now, I have 2 APRNs working under me and 2 therapists. I'm looking to hire another therapist and another APRN before the end of 2026.
Well,
and I'm expanding in Florida. I'm expanding in Florida, so I'll be opening up a private practice there, and hopefully the last place that I'll expand is North Carolina. So that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. What just an incredible journey that you've had. You have seen it all. You've treated it all, and your involvement with the House of Changes is incredible and paramount to the success of addicts. We lost her. But yeah, I was going to say that addicts need that mental health piece. And it's so wonderful that LaTonya is there providing it. And you guys are there with her. And
sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I was just saying it's amazing and wonderful that you're partnering and working with the House of Changes. As an addict myself, I know how important mental health treatment is to your recovery, and it is a huge part of the process. And I love your philosophy on it because you understand it's a disease and it's a lifelong journey. And there are going to be ebbs and flows. Nobody always gets it right the first time. So right. I think that's amazing, and you're completely non-judgmental, and you're always there to help. You're not to judge, chastise. You're going to help them along the way. You're not going to drop clients. And I do think that it's wonderful that you're expanding, because the world needs, and our country needs, more people like you. So
thank you very much. I appreciate that. The one thing I don't want to do, I want to make sure I paint a very accurate picture of who I am and what I do with my practice. This is all great. I love it, but I will say I'm non-judgmental, but I am judgmental. And let me clarify that. I'm judgmental because I judge my patients on them, not based on what I would be doing. I have to hold my patients accountable, and because when you just kind of pacify things, it doesn't necessarily give incentive to change. If I know that you can do better, then I think it's important that I pour into you and I make you see that you can do better. So that's why I said earlier, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Like, I've had patients not come back. I've had patients be like, yeah, you a little too rough. I've had patients be like, well, you're not helping me. And I'd be like, well, I can't help you, because how can I help you and my hands are deep in it and your hands are out? It's your life. It's not mine. I don't want to create a trauma bond, and now all of a sudden I'm doing everything for you, and God forbid something happens to me, and now you can't function. I think it's important that I meet my clients where they're at, but I'm very honest with them. I cheerlead everything that they do, because believe it or not, a big part of mental health is being alone. A lot of my patients, they don't have the support. They don't. I've done things that are maybe considered maybe unethical. Like, I've gone to a graduation. I've gone to something where, because there was no one there. They didn't have anyone to champion them. Like, oh my God, I did it. So I think, and again, I'm not pumping myself up. What I'm saying is, mental health is more than just like, yes, I'm non-judgmental, I'm doing this, I'm listening to you, I'm partnering with you, but it's always instilling hope. Like, I'll never forget, a patient had told me that their therapist had said to them that they will carry the hope for them when they lost it. And that's the premises of my practice. I will continue to carry. I'll carry it until you find it. So I'll leave it on that note.
That's an amazing philosophy, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Brutal truth. is the way to go. Honesty, brutal truth, that transparency makes all the difference in the world. So
That
thank you.
hope though, that sounds a little heavy though. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, trying to keep yourself motivated and then having to share that energy with other people.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that when they see someone else cares, when they see that someone else is championing for them for their success, that builds self-confidence in them that they can do it.
It pushes them. It does. It absolutely does pushes them, because think about it. How I'm Ja or Razul or even you, have y'all guys played sports? Do you play, if you ever played a sport, did you play a little bit harder if you saw, like, maybe it was a girl you're trying to impress, or maybe it's your family members in the back and understand? You stunt a little bit. You got a little funk on you. You play a little bit harder, right? And because, believe it or not, it's not because we're cocky and we need that. You need that sense of validation to feel good about yourself. So it's not about me just like, I'm just pumping all this, like, positive affirmation. Like, yeah, that's great too. But at the end of the day, that's really bring it back. A lot of people who have mental health issues, they're alienated from their community. Because they're either they're spending most of the time masking all the time because they're so depressed. They just have to get through it. They don't know how to be themselves because of their depression. The second part also too is sometimes because of their ailments or their addiction or things like that, they burn bridges. So when you come to your provider and then your provider actually listens to you, you talked about all the things that you've done, and we're looking at you and we're just like, okay, all right, so you robbed the bank. All right, so what am I supposed to do? I've had patients who killed people.
Sure.
And they come to me and I'm like, okay, so how long are we going to keep talking about this? Like, when are you going to forgive yourself? Like, when are we going to move? When are we going to get to the part where we can forgive ourselves so we can learn how to move forward? So when you do pour into your patients and you, like I said, you pump them, you let them know, like, you all right, you good, you're doing what you need to do. Your patients go hard. When I say my patients go hard, my patients go hard. They go hard. Like, I've written many letters of recommendations, things like that, because we're not going to stay where we're at. Like, you have to push yourself. So when I say I'm not for everybody, because you got to be ready to be my patient. You got to be ready. You can't be, I don't just take everybody. You got to be ready. Like, I know a lot of patients be like, oh, well, you got to be a good fit for me. And patients will look at me like I'm crazy. I'll be like, well, you got to be a good fit for me too. Because I'm not going to do all this work. I'm not going to do all of this. And then you're just looking just to get on SSDI. Like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. What we doing? Let's get to the point where if you need me to help you, I'll help you. And sidebar, some of my patients do need SSDI. I help, and I do that too. I'm not saying that that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you have that learned helplessness, me and you are not going to par. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I will help you, but you got to come out of that and realize that you got to be challenged, because change doesn't happen when you stay the same. It happens when you're challenged. So that's all I'm saying.
And Insanity Razul is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
That's right.
But I can tell you from personal experience, when you have someone who believes in you, especially with addiction and recovery, nobody else did. So if you have that one person who is on your side, that one person who will fight for you, that one person who tells you, yes, there is hope. You can get over the top of the mountain. That makes a world of difference. And that builds that self-confidence that helps men get over the hump and stay in recovery. So that's why I think it's amazing what she does and her philosophy for treatment. So I want to thank you, LaTonya. That was very, very inspiring. A great, great show. LaTonya King, APRN, the owner of Hope Life Behavioral Wellness LLC. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Let me clarify also too, because this is such a wild story. Now, it would only take me 1 minute to explain. So my business name is Hope Life Behavioral and Wellness Services LLC. There's a girl who opened up her business. I met her one time. She opened up her business like about a year ago and literally named her practice almost exactly like mine. So it's, just to be clear, mine is, yes, I'm not even holding you. Shook my hand and everything. So her practice is Hope Life. No, her practice is Hope Behavioral and Wellness Services LLC. She just took out life.
Wow, she just took out the life.
Just
That means you're winning.
be mindful.
Yes. Because I'll make sure to put a link on LinkedIn and all that, so I'll get the right place of your actual business. I won't put the other person who stole her name. I just have to mention Fresh, Ned Von Young, the Fresh Fold Laundry Company, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, high-end laundry service. They will come pick up your clothes in a 20-mile radius. You book online. They pick them up, wash, dry, and fold them at lightning speed records. And then they have them packaged for you to pick up. They also have deals for you college students that are going back. You can go on their website at freshfold-laundry.com. So for LaTonya and Hope Life Behavioral and Wellness LLC, get that right. Razul, you guys had a wonderful guest. We got a lot of great feedback. So thank you guys from the House of Changes. I think this is a partnership that is going to definitely make a difference with the men in the house and workout. So for Razul, John, LaTonya, I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges. Throw them right back at life.